Greetings and welcome to our little temple room of the Lordships Shishirad Rasraj and Shishirad Vinod Biharji. May they shower us with their profuse mercy. So I'd just like to say a little poem that I wrote today for my Guruji. It's the custom to offer our respects to the spiritual master before we speak, so I'd like to read this today. Who can be a better friend than you, sweet Guruji? You never judge or criticize. You're always with me, guiding, instructing, encouraging, soothing my soul, loving me. Jai Sachinandana Gaur Hari, Jai Sachinandana Gaur Hari. So I'd like to talk again today about Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, a conversation that took place about 5,000 years ago on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In India, the scene was a world war. And Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and his pure devotee and friend Arjuna are on the battlefield just before the war. And Krishna takes the humble position of the chariot driver. And Arjuna, the great warrior, asks Krishna to draw the chariot up between the two armies. And there he sees his own family members about to engage in battle. So he's being called upon to fight against his own family members, and he becomes overwhelmed with compassion by this terrible situation. And he at first raises all kinds of objections as to why he shouldn't fight, why it's not correct to fight. But at one point, eventually, he says to Krishna in the second chapter, Karpanya dashobhata subhavaha prachami tam dharma samudachetaha yatstreya asya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishasteyam shadimam tam pravanam. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Shishasteham. Now I am your disciple. So Arjuna is perplexed because he's a Kshatriya, he's a great warrior, a prince, and their duty was to protect, to fight, to protect the innocent. And yet in this situation he's being called upon to fight with his own family members. So he's perplexed. What should I do? He's overwhelmed by the situation. He's confused. So actually this is the situation for all of us in this material world. We are perplexed. On the one hand, we want endless happy life, but our situation is quite the opposite. We are under the stringent laws of material nature, and janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease overcome us. So what should we do? We don't want this. What should we do? And Arjuna sets the example. He says to Krishna, Shishasteham, now I am your disciple. I have confidence in you. Please instruct me, like that. So surrender to Krishna is what he does, and is the example that he sets for all humanity. Surrender to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And then Krishna, of course, begins to speak Bhagavad Gita. This conversation took place on the battlefield, approximately 1 hour in 18 chapters. And at the end of the conversation, Arjuna is no longer confused and perplexed. He has no doubt that Sri Krishna is perfect in all his instructions, and therefore he agrees to fight and is triumphant. So this is the lesson for all of us, how to overcome the perplexity of our situation. Just as we know with this virus at the moment, we are forced to stay at home. We want to go out and enjoy and have fun and so on and so forth. But all of a sudden, very quickly, this has changed. Our lives have changed. We don't know for how long. So we are perplexed. This is not what we want. So the material situation is not what we want. And what is the ultimate solution, the only solution as given by Arjuna, is to surrender to Krishna. Surrender. What does this word mean, surrender? We spoke a little bit about that, meaning to offer oneself with love to Krishna. And of course, that means to hear from him as to what to do. He is the great soul doctor. He can heal our souls. So we need to take his advice. Like that, any good doctor you need to go to, if you have any faith in him, you need to follow his advice. Unconditionally, actually. Unconditional surrender is required. Not that we have some misgivings, some doubts. I'll do this much, but not that much. And no, that is not the example as set by Arjuna. Can you imagine? He is so convinced about the perfection of Krishna and his instructions that he agrees to fight with his own relatives. Can you imagine? We can't imagine what that is. But he sets the example that our unconditional surrender, full surrender, is required. And I was thinking today about the verse from the Bible, I believe, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with thy whole heart, thy whole mind." So this complete surrender is what is being asked of us in order to escape our perplexing situation. And there are a number of verses actually in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna specifically tells us what to do, how to surrender. Just like in the 6th chapter, reading from this lovely edition of Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, verse 25, Krishna says, "Progress should be gradual, stage by stage, and full conviction must be achieved by reasoned intelligence. At last, the mind will always graze in the pasturing grounds of the eternal homeland, the realm of supreme truth and beauty, and will never wander elsewhere." Then verse 26, "Wherever the mind wanders through impetuosity and intemperate habit, it must certainly be brought back and placed under the shelter of the Divine Herdsman." So 2 very beautiful verses. The mind is compared to like a cow, grazing in the pasturing grounds of the eternal homeland, the supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan, this beautiful planet which is the personal home of Sri Krishna. And he is saying that as we progress, ultimately, this will be the situation, that our minds will always be absorbed in remembering Krishna and will never wander elsewhere. Never wander elsewhere, never. No coming back like that. And then Krishna says that wherever the mind wanders through impetuosity and intemperate habit, it must certainly be brought back and placed under the shelter of the Divine Herdsman. So there we have the formula for our steady progress, is that as we go on practicing this bhakti yoga, beginning with Shravanam, hearing, Kirtanam, speaking about Krishna, about his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, Nama, Guna, Rupa, Lila, the mind will wander. In the beginning, this what we can understand will happen. And Krishna says, wherever it wanders, it must be brought back. Like that. Brought back, like that, like a cow that wanders off and has to be brought back by the cowherd boy, transcendental cowherd boy, Shri Krishna. Beautiful comparison that he is the divine herdsman. Spiritually and literally, he is our protector. Gopal, his name also, protector of the cows. So protecting our minds like that. So that requires, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, constant practice and total dedication. So this is required. We firstly need to become aware if we are chanting the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If we become aware that the mind is drifting, wandering off, then to be aware is good. Then we know, okay, hold on, back to the holy name. And Lord Chaitanya gives us a wonderful verse, Trinadapi Sanichenata Rodapi Sahishnana Manina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahadi. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So, to keep on chanting, to get the mind back on track, requires these things: humility, tolerance. It says like that the only thing that attracts Krishna's mercy is humility. So if we can come with a humble heart and say, "Oh my Lord, I'm so fallen, I'm so helpless. Your holy name is all that can save me. Please be with me in your holy name. Allow me to hear and chant your holy name all the time." Like that. And in this way we can be safe under the protection of the divine herdsman. So, of course, in this world, unfortunately, people are not spontaneously attracted to remembering Krishna. As my Guruji said, actually, that even in this world, people have a hard time even believing that God exists. Never mind being spontaneously attracted to remembering him, loving him. So to awaken that dormant love is necessary, and the practice of sadhana bhakti is given by the great souls, the great saints, emphasizing this hearing and chanting the holy names. This is the process given which will awaken our dormant love by the grace of these great souls, and bring us to that stage where we are naturally thinking and wanting to serve Krishna and feeling attachment to him, to his holy name, and ultimately prem, love, which is the perfection of our lives. So I would just like to read from a beautiful book by one of our great spiritual masters and saints, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. The book's called Sri Braj Vilas Stava. And I just want to read a few verses which give us an idea of what is this love that the fully self-realized Krishna conscious souls feel in the spiritual kingdom. What is this love? They certainly are in a different state of consciousness than those of us in this material world. They are madly in love with Krishna. And Shri Guru and Gauranga say that this is what we are being given in this age. Although it's a dark age, the golden age is here by the grace of Gauranga, and everyone will be given this wonderful, matchless gift, as it's called. priceless jewel of Krishna Prem, of love of Krishna. So we can hear a few verses about certain personalities that and how they love Krishna. What is the nature of that love? So the first one is about Baladev, who is Krishna's elder brother. So Raghunath Das Goswami writes this verse. I joyfully praise Sri Baladev, the enemy of Dhenukasura, whose bodily effulgence shines brightly like many millions of glistening moons, who easily destroys even a whiff of the false pride of the most sinful and formidable demons with his boundless power, and although knowing full well the supernatural strength of his younger brother Sri Krishna, still out of immense love for him, never lets him out of his sight in the woods even for a moment. Can you imagine? So beautiful. Then this is a verse about Upananda. His face handsome with a great white beard and his complexion dark, the pious Upananda is the respected prime minister in the council of the king of Raj. Raj is the spiritual village. He is prepared to give up his life millions of times over to please his nephew Sri Krishna. I pray that Upananda, who lives in the village of Sahara, may always protect the land of Braj. Then there's this beautiful verse about Sananda. May we always be protected by Nanda Maharaj's younger brother Sananda, whose complexion is golden and whose beard is black, who is tender, generous and affectionate, who is deeply devoted to his older brother's feet, who is the father of Sunanda Gopi, who is the master of a great herd of buffalo, and who worships his nephew Madhava, Krishna, with every breath, and pleases him by giving him palatable dishes made with buffalo yogurt. Then another verse about one of Krishna's companions, Sridhama. I fully take shelter of Krishna's constant companion, Sridhama, who never leaves Krishna for an instant, who is the object of Krishna's profuse love, who is the most skillful and clever of the Sakhas, the cowherd boys, cowherd friends of Krishna, whose complexion is dark, who is proud that his qualities, age, clothing, and handsome features closely resemble those of Krishna, and who trembles with anxiety if he cannot see his friend for even a single moment. Wow, can you imagine? Trembling with anxiety just because he can't see Krishna for a second. And then this is another beautiful verse. I worship Madhava as Krishna's fortunate associates who consider the vast ocean of their own happiness to be as insignificant as a blade of grass, and who filled with pure love for Sri Krishna, the enemy of the Mura demon, always lovingly and humbly strive to increase his happiness. So these are just some few verses about some very great lovers of God, lovers of Krishna. And we are fortunate to even be able to hear these verses. So exalted they are, describing pure love, pure love. And that pure love is in everyone's heart. It simply needs to be awakened. And as Krishna says in the 9th chapter, the basic formula, this verse is one of the key verses of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, always absorb your mind in remembering me, remain lovingly devoted to me, adore me with your acts of worship, and humbly kneel down before me. Entering into such complete divine communion, you will surely reach my personal presence. So Krishna is saying that it is for sure, it's for sure that we will reach his personal presence. So we just need to keep going on the path day by day, in this humble state of mind, as Lord Chaitanya has described, that if that is our mood, just like my Guruji also once said, that we need to see ourselves only as servant, only as servant. I'm servant. I'm nothing more, nothing less than servant, like that. Servant of Sri Krishna. This is normally, of course, in this world, servant is something menial and undesirable. But to be a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant, millions of times removed of Sri Krishna, is actually a great privilege. A great privilege. In fact, my Guruji said it's the only privilege. So to think of oneself only as servant is quite correct. It's quite sane. It's intelligent, and of course it will lead to this eternal blissful life of no anxiety in the land of love, Sri Vrindavan. So obviously now with the whole lockdown, we are in a sense being forced to spend more time, given the opportunity to spend more time hearing and chanting about Krishna and his beautiful qualities and pastimes. So that's a blessing. That's a blessing. And I wish you well on the spiritual journey until we meet again. Hare Krishna.